Hello and welcome everybody to the Wildly Awakened Women interview series. This is a series that's been designed to really help you to connect with the wildly awakened women within you. And by showcasing some really incredible women who have decided to dance to the beat of their own drum and carve out incredible lives and careers to really show you what's possible. So, in today's interview, I am speaking to the amazing Debs. Debs is the founder and creator of the Holistic Hypnotherapist, and she is a luxury retreat leader and host and loves to help women recalibrate and come back to their self by releasing the past, resetting their nervous system, and most importantly, rising to meet their full potential. So, Debs, thank you so much for being here. I'm really delighted that you said yes to coming along and having a conversation today. Today's theme for the interview that we've talked about between us, you and I, is the ache for more. I
Mhm.
think so many of us experience that ache for more and we don't know what to do with it because often it doesn't make sense or it's not what people expect of us. So I would love to start by you just sharing a little with us about what's your experience of that ache for more.
I can even just when you said those words initially, you know how sometimes you don't know what you're going to say when you first come on like one of these
Mhm.
chats? It's so funny because you just said those words and instantly I remember it. It was like a feeling I can
Mm,
remember. And it started the first time
mm,
when I sometimes refer to it as a moment where I had a wake up call when I
mhm,
was working in corporate.
mhm,
And I'd gone through so much chasing, trying to achieve this, achieve that, climb the ladder. And I just had this real something deep inside me. And I'm like, I don't think this is the life I'm supposed to be in. But I
mm,
don't really know what else there is out there. I don't know how to make something else possible because I've only
mhm,
ever known this type of living. And that was the first moment that I had the ache for more, was because I knew
mm.
deep down something else out there. I just saw forward like another 20 years and I thought, I don't think I can do this life for 20 more years like this, like in a
Absolutely.
corporate environment, etc. So that was the first time that I had that feeling. And then
Uh-huh.
as I moved through that journey, I had it again,
Mhm,
well, not quite 10 years later, but the culmination of it was 10 years later. Whereas I realised that the ache for more wasn't just about the change in the career, the change in how I lived my life, how I operated in the world. It was actually a change of environment and a change of location. And
mm,
that then came from me now in the process of starting to make a move to another country.
yeah,
And that ache, it was so familiar. Like I recognized it from the two times, different reasons why I had it, but the same feeling. So that's the
I
two
love
times
that.
that are the strongest for me.
I love that. And I'd love you to share a little bit more about your journey because you've been on this path for, is it about 10 years that you've been on this
Yeah.
path of, yeah, and same, by the way, samesies, like I've been on the path for 10 years too. And what you said around being in corporate, looking and thinking, is this it? That was exactly what I experienced. And interestingly, I also experienced it as a physical sensation. So for me, it was like, it was quite a catastrophic experience because I had a breakdown and a burnout. The last burnout, let's say, it definitely wasn't my first. So it's interesting. And I think that's one of the things I've noticed and why I describe this archetypal experience that we go through. Because I think there is a lot of connection and a lot of similarities between what many of us face and experience.
Mhm.
And when we come together and do that together, everything starts to feel so much easier. But before we kind of maybe dive more into that, I'd love you to just tell us a bit about what were you doing and in corporate and what did you decide to do? Because you have achieved an incredible amount in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'd love you to just share a little bit because I'm sure people listening are thinking, but how did you make that move to get out of your corporate career? What did that look like? People ask me that often. So can you tell us a wee bit more about the journey?
Sure. Ultimately, corporate was a way of life for me because that's what was available to me when I was young.
Mhm.
and it was the thing to do was to get a job. It wasn't uni, it wasn't anything like
Mhm.
that. None of these opportunities weren't accessible to me when I was that age. I started to go into something else, and eventually through time, I found my way into finance because that's another one of my passions. So even separate to what I do now, I love all things finance, investing. I really enjoy learning about that. So actually, I was in the banking industry, and mortgages was my
Mhm.
expertise. And I'd done a lot of different roles in the bank, specifically in and around sales, managing teams, relationship management. I trained as well for quite a period of time. So the whole career path in the bank was still taking me in the right direction in the sense that I was still learning a lot.
Yeah.
But what I started to notice was on that journey, I got to a stage where I was managing teams of mortgage advisors, and I saw above me and I thought, I don't want any of the jobs. I actually don't want to be any of these
Yeah.
people here. It's like, so what am I doing here? If I don't want what's ahead of me, where does my life go from here?
Yeah.
And I moved to a department. It really, when you're talking about the breakdown, this is how it really happened for me. So climb, chase, if you will, because I kept thinking, this is the one.
Yeah, me
This is
too.
when
Yeah.
this
Tick,
is the
tick, tick.
moment.
Tick,
Yes.
tick, tick.
And I went
Yeah.
to this new department and I went, okay, I'm starting from scratch here. It's a higher up job. No idea how it's going to go, but I think this is the one that's going to hit that sweet spot and I'm going to feel that fulfillment. And it turned out to be, of all the jobs, the worst one I could ever have went to. And I never, the experience and the environment was really toxic. And I'm quite an outgoing person. I got on with everybody. And honestly, within a year, I was like a shell
Yeah.
of myself. So I made a decision to get myself out of there. I went back to an old department, but to a higher job. And then it took me about a year to get back on my feet with my confidence. I had no confidence. I
Psychologically.
remember going back, I couldn't even send an email without
Mhm.
checking it about 50 times because
Mhm.
my nerves
Mhm.
shattered from the
Mhm.
previous experience. But after that first year, and I settled and I went, you know what? I will never take another job in this bank or any other corporate environment. I'm not searching for another job.
Mhm.
I need to find out where I'm going next. And it
Mhm.
was in that year that I applied for my degree to do in the Open
Mhm.
University, psychology
Mhm.
and counselling, which was my bag my whole life. I always
Yeah.
said when I was 17, I remember saying I want to be a counsellor or a social worker
Yeah.
because I always knew who I was.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I didn't know hypnotherapy and coaching and all these
Yeah.
other things that I do now were
Yeah.
even possible. But it was in that moment, and I was like, oh, I now know what I'm supposed to be doing. Did I know I was going to have a business? No. Did I know I
Yeah.
was even going to eventually leave corporate? No. But
Mhm.
I knew I was meant for more.
Yes.
And that's how it began. And it was interesting because I thought I would be in the bank for the full 4 years of the
Mhm.
degree. It can take 6 or longer when you do an open uni degree, but I was all in. I was just head down. And after 2 years, I had this really crazy busy phase. I was totally under so much pressure. And I thought to myself, I think I just want to live this new life as well as studying. And I think
Mhm.
I'm ready to let the old life go. And I'd saved up a load of money. And it was kind of like if I'd got made redundant, because we were always talking about redundancies in the
Yeah.
bank, angling the carrot every 5 minutes. People are still sitting waiting, and I've been away for 10 years. So in that moment, I was like, you've saved up enough, it would be like you were redundant.
Yeah.
And you now have this plan, albeit it has no security in it right now, but there's something in your gut telling you that you're meant to do this. And
Mhm.
that's what I did. I left the bank. I went full on in. I finished my degree in the next 2 years, got my diploma, and did third sector work, mental health sector work in that time at the NHS.
Mhm.
And then I literally just left all of that type of work and then started a business. And that
Mhm.
was like 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just knew something in me was saying, this is not the life you're meant to lead.
Yes,
You're
exactly the
living
same.
somebody else's life.
Exactly the same. And one of the questions I had for you, and I think this is the answer, but maybe there's more, was How did you know the difference between restlessness and a deeper inner call? Because I think a lot of people, they worry that they want more from a place of consumption, or the grass is greener, or welcome to the world, you just need to suck it up. That's what it's like. Just get on with it. Like, I've heard a lot of that. I'm sure you
Yeah.
probably have as well. How did you know the difference between it's not just restlessness, it's not just like itchy feet, it's not just time for something new, or versus that inner call?
Okay,
That
so I think first of all, I'd had many years of the restlessness, and I
mm.
filled that gap with fancy holidays, Vegas, America, Vegas
Yes,
again,
that's
Vegas
exactly the
again,
same as me.
here
Yeah.
and there and everywhere. And then I'll get this car. No, I'll get an Audi now. And
Yeah.
then I'll get this. And then I'll get an Hermes bag. And
Yeah.
then I'll do that. And then I'll have this thing. And then eventually I'm looking around and I'm thinking, everybody seems to be enjoying the party, if you will. And I'm the only one that's still going, I don't know why I'm not happy here. Like,
Yeah.
I have all these nice things. I go all of these holidays. I'm partying like it's 1999. It's like everybody's living their best life, but I don't feel like I belong here. I
Mm.
think I'm just frightened to go out on my own and try what it is I really want,
Yeah.
because I think all these other things are what I'm supposed to be
Supposed to, yeah,
connected with.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Because it's like what you were supposed to do. Like you said, you did
yeah,
the thing that, like, you were ambitious, you had a great career, you climbed the career ladder. Again, it's so funny, like, how similar your journey is to mine, because I didn't go to uni or anything. Like, worked in financial services, I worked my way up. Super, super similar. Ended up in a toxic place that really contributed a lot to my burnout as well. I think part of what I really notice in your journey is that when you took that initial leap to think, I'm going to follow my interest, I'm going to study something that what you said was, because that's always who I was, right?
hmm,
And so I want to draw that out because I talk about the ego and the essence, don't I, in the work that we do. And so the ego is like the version of you that's learned who the world thinks you should be. And your essence is who you are before the world told you who you're supposed to be. Your passion, your talents, your conviction, your drive. And again, this archetypal journey that you've described, what you did was you said yes to that version of you without knowing what the destination was, without knowing exactly where you were going to end up. And I think that's a massive bit that scares people or stops people from trying, is we want it to
yeah.
be all neat and packaged and tied up with a bow. That's exactly what's going to happen. And we can never anticipate what's going to happen, can we? So what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced along the way?
Yes. The challenges. So I think for me, I always believed in myself. So I felt confident when I was leaving the bank, even though I didn't really know what I was going to
Yes.
do. And I think I didn't know a lot of what the pitfalls might be, and that was probably for the best,
Yeah.
because I remember getting my first salary like when I was doing bank staff, right, at one of the in NHS 24, and I had been doing just random hours and stuff. And I tell you, getting my first salary slip from there was actually more scary than when I wasn't working, because I
Mm,
didn't know what I didn't was about to happen, and I saw what real world was again when
yeah.
I was doing some part-time work.
Yeah.
So for me, some of the challenges were keeping myself prepared financially. I think the external things,
Yep.
and that scared me a wee bit, and it has over the time. And I think for anybody that was tuning into this, I think you'll always have these ups and downs
Mm,
where we need to get used to different ways of living for periods of
yes.
time while you're on the journey. I used to laugh with my sister and I went, that's it, Champagne Mondays are over. This ain't no corporate environment we're in
Yep.
anymore. So, and then so you have to learn things like I have to say no to things quite often,
Mhm.
but it's a phase. It's not forever, because
Exactly.
up
Exactly.
then when it's on the way up, there's lots of things that you can say yes to. So I think the challenge is being okay, sitting with what you perceive as FOMO,
Yes,
being
yes,
okay.
FOMO. Because FOMO, I mean, it's a marketer dream, right? FOMO, isn't it? That fear of missing out. And I love that you're saying that, because when, like, a lot of the work I've done with clients, it might have been that we started off, I was working as their exec coach when they were in corporate, but that work together unlocked some of the similar things to what you're describing. And it made them think, actually, I want something else. I want something different. I want to go it alone. Or there's somebody who's in a job, who's in employment and has that desire to make the leap. But of course, it's scary. And what I always recommend is a transition plan. And that
Yes.
transition plan is really what you've just described in real life, which is, what is the amount of money that you need to have in place each month to stop your nervous system from constantly being on red
Yeah.
alert? And how do you create that, or how do you feel confident that's there? And also, for me personally, as somebody who was also trying to fill the void of meaning in my life with stuff, as so many of us do, which is what you described as well, isn't it? Ripping right back and not spending money, like not just kind of spunking money, if you like, anywhere, was actually a really valuable exercise for me, because it made you think, what is it that I really need? And what is it that I really want? So it became a much more conscious way of spending, which is exactly what you've described as well, right?
Yeah, and it's so funny you should say that because not that long ago, so in business, it takes peaks and troughs. You have to roll with the roller coaster until things eventually level out to a degree. But one of the things that I noticed was there was moments where I would have a big peak with income and then it would go back down again or down a bit and then it would go back up. And I was reflecting on that. And I remember saying to myself, oh, you learned so many lessons about money when you first went into business because it changed how I acted with money,
Yep.
changed how I thought about money, changed how I treated money,
Hmm.
changed how I spoke about money.
Hmm.
But it was actually one of my last times where I felt like things had gone up in a big peak and then it had started to come down again. And I was like, what else? There must be another lesson in here because
Hmm.
this is weird. And it was
Yes,
so funny. I
patterns.
remember saying to my sister, and I went, yeah, because see, when that was at its peak, I couldn't be bothered cooking some days. And the next minute, I was constantly going, "Do you just want to go out for dinner? Do you just want to go out for lunch? Do you just want to go out for dinner?" But this could be happening like 3 or 4 times in a week. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't operate like that
Yep.
ordinarily. But it just showed me that when the money was buoyant, and although I wasn't wasting it on things as
Yep.
such, I went, there you go, you're still not a
Yeah.
100%
Attuned.
being, yeah. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like I was trying to say, oh, you need to be tight and watch your money. No, no human needs to be eating out 4 to 5 times a week, even just for the waistline. That
Yeah.
ain't good for you. It was in that moment, I was like, oh, there's another wee lesson that you thought you'd learned
Hmm.
a lot, but there's
Hmm.
another fine tuning to be done.
Yep.
And again, just with that insight, it's just helped me operate the difficult times that have then made space that when the good times roll, they're really good times
Yeah.
because there's just nothing being completely wasted and
Yeah.
there's more money there to do more of the good stuff.
Amazing. I love that. And our relationship with money is so core to all of this, particularly as women. And that's why one of the pillars of what I describe as the feminine edge is wealth. Because, and we'll talk a little bit about well-being actually, because that's your domain. I'd love to hear it a little bit more. And we've got a fun story I'd love to tell actually, because you created this amazing life and business, but it's cyclical. And so recently you've had another big, where you've blown everything up
Right.
again, haven't you? So I'd love us to just talk about that, because I think there was some fun experiences that happened within that, but also you've just claimed a brand new trajectory. You've just completely repositioned your business. You mentioned briefly you're moving geographical location. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, and how listening to that inner wisdom, finding ways to connect more deeply with that inner wisdom, is continuing to just give you a life beyond what you ever thought was possible once upon a time. So we were together back in March, wasn't it? It was March
Yeah.
for a retreat that I was running in Scotland. And you came along for the day, and something happened that on that day, didn't it? Something happened on that day, like the tectonic plates of your life shifted. Do you want to just say a little bit about that?
100%.
Because it was such a, well, since then, in the last 3 or 4 months, as we film this, your life is just completely
Totally
changed.
changed.
So, yeah, so why don't you share from your perspective what happened? It was almost like a reawakening, right? A reclaiming, I think, or
Yes.
more. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so very briefly, quick background before the retreat. I have had this really weird feeling like I used to joke and say, I think if I did one of those tests to tell you where your part,
DNA
what the
test.
different parts of
100.
your DNA, yeah. I says, if I've not got Italian in me, I will be shocked. I
Mm-hmm.
went, because I'm in love with the language, the food. I went, I am a hopeless romantic. I get caught up in the architecture and the utter romanticism that a lot of Italy
Mm-hmm.
represents. And I never went for years because I had this pipe dream that I would go with a great guy and it would be all this romanticism. Never
Mm-hmm.
happened, just spoiler alert. But
Yeah.
yet, but here's the thing, it's always been in there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to anybody listening to this, I have known almost all of the lifetime that I can remember from that Italy has been somewhere bubbling in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I just held back. And it actually, the first time I went, I made it a point, was the year that I graduated. And I said, when I get, if I get a first, I went, these are the things I'm going to do. And it was go
Amazing.
to Vegas again, buy a Gucci watch, and it was to go to Italy for the first time. And in that moment, it almost sealed my fate because
Mm-hmm.
then I became so aware of what it was that I was in love with because I was in it rather than just reading about it or watching it. So then, fast forward many years, I'm at your retreat, and the previous year I'd been traveling a bit more. I'd actually been in Rome the year before, and
Mm-hmm.
I still knew I loved Italy. But there was a part of me that was like, I need to be able to move around, but I don't think I've got the resources to do it, or at least
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel I could access resources to do it. Come to your retreat. I can only come for the one day because obviously I was going to Italy, believe it or not. And the best thing was in that one day, I can just remember many things happening. And I don't know if I've ever really properly shared with you what the experience was like, Mel. But one of the sessions, I cried so much. But the weird thing was, it was about things that I've worked through. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually wasn't crying because I was back there like it was happening. It wasn't that. It was like a final release
Yes,
of any
exactly.
remnants that were
Yes.
still floating about. And then as we moved through the sessions, by the time we got into the afternoon session, I'll never forget it. He just looked after the session and went, so what come up for you? And I just went, I'm accessing my funds, whether I need them or not. I don't care. I'm doing 7 weeks in Italy. And everybody just turned around and was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, but it was already there. It just needed the
Yep.
gateway to come up to the top to
Mm-hmm.
trust myself. You do have the resources. Trust that even if you have to use them, they're there, but you might
Mm-hmm.
not have to because other things might come up, other
Exactly.
opportunities. Fast forward a month or so, and there I was, and I'd planned 7 weeks. I didn't plan it out in advance. I took a one flight with
Mm-hmm.
one apartment, the one location,
Mm-hmm.
and I says I'll start there for 3 weeks and I'll go up and down the coastline of Puglia because it's gorgeous and there's a lot of places you can go. And then I'll go over to Salerno, I'll go to Positano and Amalfi
Mm-hmm.
Coast, then I'll come home and I'll see where I'm at. Yeah, spoiler alert again, that never happened because when I went to Monopoly in Puglia, after a week, I just knew. I knew. I was like, I'm supposed to live here or at least spend a lot of time here.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to offer my Airbnb host, extended out my stay for a full month, got really friendly with her. And in that journey, once I'd settled myself that I was coming back there to spend more time, because I let go and just felt that peace, the ideas started to flood in for my retreats. And
Mm-hmm.
in 1 month, I had decided I was renting my house, moving to Monopoly and going to do more in Italy, booked a villa and got my first two full paying clients
Mm-hmm.
on for my retreat,
Yep.
all within that week before I come home.
Yep. Hallelujah
I
to
mean,
that.
pick it up, could you?
You couldn't make it
And as
up.
we speak right now, my house, I've got one day left in my house. before I'm
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
My
before you
tenants.
rent out, and that's part of your property portfolio, which is part of your
Yes.
financial plan and dreams and vision. And it's so powerful because we're talking, as we are filming this now, it's August 25. And that happened in March at the retreat where it was like that moment of how I want to describe it for people, where there was a moment where you claimed it. It was about, yes, it was about honoring the longing. Because, like you said, it was there, it was swirling. And for so many of us, like our desires, which I believe are the signposts to your destiny, right? They're there and we shove them down and we feel guilty about them, or we second guess ourselves, or we feel like, what will people say? What will people think? And so we deny our desires, we deny who we really are in service of who the world thinks we should be, and then end up feeling frustrated and resentful and living a half lit life. And what's really amazing about your story and journey is like you're 10 years into this. So there's longevity, but also things can happen so fast. Like things can
100%.
happen so quickly. Some things take time to build. Of course, everything takes time to build. In my dream house right now, which when I started doing video 5, 6 years ago in my business, I was like perched up in a little room upstairs in my like in an attic. And I was even thinking about that this morning, thinking, God, and this was a dream. And lots of my clients had heard me talk about this vision for this house. We're not finished. We're 4 years deep. We're not finished yet. But is it worth it? Absolutely. And I think often we don't talk enough about creating what you really want takes time. To build something meaningful takes time. But magic happens instantly and things can happen so fast. Both are true, aren't they? Both are true.
100%.
And so what you did that day was, one, you gave yourself the experience and the space to allow yourself to be held.
Yes.
That's
100%.
important and we'll talk about how you want to do that for others in just a few minutes, because I'd love you to share more about your vision about your retreats as well. But that was my vision for why I want to run retreats and love to run them, is because I know that when I can create that space where you can really go to the place where your truth lies and really connect with what matters and feel safe enough to claim it and make decisions, momentum happens fast when you go and take the actions. Because you could have had that moment and then gone and done the hokey cokey and flip flopped and not taken the action. We've all been there as well.
Yes.
So I think you're such a brilliant example and role model of when you feel it, you don't have it all worked out, but you just trust that call, you trust that connection within, you trust that voice, you surround yourself with the support that you need, but you also realize that actually you taking action is what's going to make that happen.
100%.
And it doesn't matter who you are, that's how you make it happen. That's how you bring your vision to life. That's how you bring your dream alive. It's just so inspirational. So let's talk about impact and the impact that you're here to have. How has following that longing, like claiming that desire, claiming that vision, claiming that knowing, how has that and is that helping you create an impact and a legacy within the world? And talk to us about what that is for you. I'd really love to hear you talk about that.
The whole change that I can hardly even put it into words, which is it's not something that I usually struggle with. Mel, let's keep it real here. We have been known for me to try and sit in my own hands, to not speak, but to articulate this part is actually probably not tricky, but I do have to think about it because it has all happened really fast. But just to put it into some context, I've always known I wanted to make a difference in the world. I'm not
Mm.
talking about stardom and fame. I'm
No.
talking about my name being known to the people that are my people, and in a way that I can actually support and help them. And I've always known that I can do it in such a big way, but I've never felt completely, I don't even know, confident isn't the right word, but sure about exactly how I want things to go. And I think you'll remember, even from being in the mastermind, I've had a wee bit of the hokey cokey multiple times. And
Mm.
even you've said to me, I think you're forcing that. And I'm like, oh my God, she totally sees me. So, like, I'll go back I'll be cave and I'll go back inside and I'm like, yeah, you were totally right. So this whole journey for me, Mel, has had me watching almost like my old, not business burn to the ground completely, but it has evolved so much because now I'm actually getting to do the thing that I love, which is the way I help people, but I can get to do it by me being the traveler as well, which is what I want to be doing. I want to be
Which
living
it's not
in
just that, it's
Italy.
who you are.
It is, and
It's
it's
what you want to
actually
do.
when I'm
It's who
there.
you are, right? You're
Yeah,
in
what?
your fullest expression.
Yeah,
That's who you are. That's how you live, isn't it?
but I think that's why it happened, and honestly, how it happened so fast because it was like I was always meant to go to that place and meet
Mhm,
those people and book that villa and be at that port and be on that shore at 5:30 with the sunrise because I found my way back to myself almost completely. And I never felt so sure of anything. I came straight home and straight away I had the letting agent up the next, literally
mhm,
2 days later. I was like, let's get this show on the road. So
mhm,
it's been a fast turnaround. And now the way my business model is, I get to bring people. I knew when I was there, I straight away I was like, I'm meant to bring people here because it's singing it to me. I can feel
mhm,
it energetically. I was like, there's an energy here that's like magic, and I know other people will get the same feeling. And
mhm.
then when I add in the layers of what I do with the model of my own business, I was like, this could be completely transformational for some people. My business evolved. I had no clue so many people were going to jump on it in a heartbeat. So my
Mhm,
first one is full. It's intimate, but it is full. My
mhm.
second one has got 5 people on my wait list, just desperately for the dates to come out.
Amazing.
So from not knowing or feeling like this is not going in the right direction, or I think I'm chatting too hard in this door and something
Yeah,
just didn't feel right, all of a sudden it's just went.
yeah.
And the model itself had just, it was born out of that certainty in myself. Because
Mhm,
even when I tried things in the past, online courses, I've always wanted to offer something online because I think it's a good way to offer something powerful, but at a price point that maybe meets other
yeah.
people's
More,
needs.
more needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I can do that, and that's good for my soul. So
No.
for me, doing something that feels like I'm always giving, almost giving back as well, just makes
Mhm,
me feel good. Tried it many times, Mel, and I've got skint knees by how many times I fell down and flattened my
mhm,
face and went, yeah, that was like crickets. It never worked.
mhm.
And this time, when I was creating it, I just had a different. I went, oh, now I know how it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and now I know why it's never worked before. Now,
Yes.
I'm not saying it's all of a sudden going to take off, but there's a feeling in me
Yeah.
that has a confidence that goes, this is it now. This is
Mhm.
why it's never worked before. So all of my business model is adjusted. I've adjusted. My clients are now following me wherever I go and whatever I'm doing. So
Amazing.
they're all like, yeah, we want to come and be part of your retreats.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people have even just simply said, oh, I've always wanted to go on a retreat, but actually I want to support you as well? It's just so touched
It's
when they're
incredible.
actually saying
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So I'm at the beginning, I'm at the precipice now, this final moment of all this change. And I think a year from now, not even a year, 6 months, 9 months, I'll barely even recognise myself and what my business looks like.
So amazing.
So,
So amazing.
yeah.
You said something there that I think it's worth just explaining it a little bit more and exploring. You said there was and I remember exactly the conversation we were having. Or I think it was like we were walkie-talkie and we were voxing in each other, where you were kind of saying, I need to just get my plan together. I need to do this. I need to do that. Really in what I would describe as your masculine energy, where it's like, I need to get shit done. And that's when I was kind of saying, it feels like you're pushing, it feels like you're forcing. And I want to draw out the feminine here because when you said yes to stepping into working with me as a private client and in the mastermind, the inner circle mastermind, you had an idea about why you were stepping in and saying yes. And it was to grow your business and do this and that. But my way of doing it and our way of doing it is it's like, well, I'm not going to get you to follow a formula and a strategy that's the same for everybody. It's about you being able to be deeply connected to your intuition and deeply connected to really following what's the right next move, what's the right next move, what's the right next move, with your strategy overlaying that. That's what's different. And that's the more feminine way to allow things to unfold, to really surrender to what is calling you forward, along with the structures like an online course
Mhm.
and a really well crafted offer for your retreat. Of course, you need that stuff. So I think that's worth saying. But because you leaned in so well within that work, and I've given you this, I've shared this feedback before, what happened was you were able to create. So, like halfway through working together, you were able to connect with what the thing really was.
Yeah.
Because the risk is that you build all this stuff and you invest all your time and energy and money in building this infrastructure because it's what you think it should be, rather than what it really is, what it really needs to be, like what you really want it to be.
I've done
And
that, Mel. I've actually done
yeah,
that before.
before,
And that's how I've ended up burnt out, hating my business, not
yes,
getting any clients or the right kind of clients, and then going, am I the problem?
yeah,
That
yeah,
I've been there and then spent thousands
yeah,
doing it. And this is why I knew myself. I was like, this is my moment when I started working with you, that I have to be coachable. I have to be open. I have to lean in because this is your time. And I think I just knew in my heart I was ready for something that was deeper than strategy. And
hmm,
although I might have gave you a few times going, ah, Mel, I need a strategy, and oh, you'll have to listen to me rambling on. But equally, I still took steps that
yeah,
were bigger than just sitting behind my laptop. I
exactly,
did the
exactly,
travel, I went to places, I tried all these things. So, because I was, even if I had a moment of panic and wanted to jump back to strategy, I still kept moving forward. And
yeah,
because of that thing just clicked
yeah,
and a brand new business was born.
yeah,
And as it was born, but it was only born because I decided to change other parts of my life. And if
yeah,
anybody that's listening to this, honestly, this is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Trying to change your business or trying to create things in your business and it becoming your entire being is probably one of the most, for me, was the most destructive things I could have done. It needs to move with you. So you
hmm,
have to be living your life at the same time. You have to be out there meeting people. You have to be traveling or experiencing other things in your life because see those experiences, that's where things all of a sudden you'll just
yeah.
click me.
Inspired
If I had
ideas, new
this,
connections.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. So it's good to have the strategy, it's good to do all these things, blah blah blah. But honestly, you have to move with it. It has to be a fluid
yeah,
life where the
yeah,
life and the business move together. If you separate them and you say, I'm not doing any of these things until this business succeeds, I can tell
mhm.
you because I've got the evidence. You'll be sitting in your living room looking at your laptop, crying into your pillow more times than you would like to be.
Yeah,
So learn it from me before you waste years staying stuck like I did. I've done more, Mel, in 10 years than I did in 20 before.
yeah.
And I've learned more about myself and done more with my life in the last 5 than I've done in the last 25.
It's incredible, isn't it? Since you made that commitment to following your intuition and your dreams and your desires, it comes back to those desires, doesn't it? It's amazing. I mean, it's just such, like I say, it's such an inspiring story for people. So, what would you say to the woman who feels the ache, who feels the longing, but is afraid to follow that? What would you say to her?
I would say, what would I say? Something, not even something inspiring, just total true. Honestly, first of all, it will not go away. It will just get more uncomfortable. You hear it and it's getting louder. Act before it becomes this thing that feels destructive in you, because that's how it ended up for me. It will eventually bring you down, either like you a burnout or
Yeah,
like me,
my whole life
a
fell apart.
total torture, right?
Mhm.
So when you hear the whisper, listen to it, and then all you need to do is start taking the first steps. It might be some research, it might be a dabbling with a side hustle, it could be just an exploring experience. Don't silence it completely
Mhm.
because it will take life of its own. when you do
Mhm.
that. And then see behind the scenes, just start making the smallest little baby steps of a
Tiny little
plan.
baby steps. Yep.
Might be, I'm going to put some money away. I'm going to just start sorting out some of my finances. I'm going to get rid of stuff I don't need, start
Mhm.
clearing out what's not
Mhm.
important to me, or I'm going to adjust my behaviors towards money and
Mhm.
just the baby steps. And I
Mhm.
tell you, what is the compound
Yeah.
theory? The more you small steps compound, one day you'll have something that you go, I've got money. I've actually sorted myself out and I've got a business that's kind of viable. Oh, wait a minute. I could probably take a chance on myself and it will not feel as scary because you've already done the dabbling. So that's what I would tell them.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. And the last thing, I'd love to know what practices, like what are the practices or habits or routines that really help you stay grounded when you're on this expansive kind of path of there's more unknowns and there's lots more to explore. Like, what are some of the practices that you use or have used that have really helped you stay feeling whole and healthy and happy as you navigate big changes?
Yeah. A couple of things that definitely help are when you work for yourself, it's easy to make up a schedule that's just, it's not got any structure. So my first thing is you get yourself a routine. So for me, it's a morning routine and working out, green juice. I know it sounds like the practical things, but it sets you up for the day. So it's
Yep,
getting in some kind of routine. So for me, that
I
one was
agree. That's the
key.
same for me as well.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I tell my clients this all the time, and I think it's Byron Katie, her sort of theory. So when I hear a thought, I'll say to myself, is that true or is that a story I'm telling myself?
Mhm.
Because I tell you, the mind's great at tricking you. I could tell myself, was telling myself, I don't have the money to go 7 weeks to Italy. You did, but you don't want to spend it because it's for other things, but you do have it. So really what happened was when I realised you do have it, you can also make more money, so you might not need it, then all of a sudden I was free to go. See how
Exactly.
in my own reframing, so I
Hmm.
can tell myself one thing, but it doesn't make it true. So
Hmm.
don't be tricked by your own crazy ass thinking
Limitations.
because I
Yes.
tell you, it will, fear will come up and go, no, you can't do that. That's silly. People will be laughing at you. Well, how are you going to make that money back? What if you run out? All these stories. And I always sit back and I go, is that true or is that a story I'm making up in my head? And when I dial it back, or the other thing I'll always say to myself is, this might be true today for what's going on, but actually, I've also got the rest of the day to fix the thing that's the problem. So
Yep.
if I think I'm worrying about something, oh my God, I've not got a client. Oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. I was like, yeah, but I've also got the rest of today to find
Hmm.
a solution. So get
Yep.
on with it.
And
Stop
tomorrow
wasting
with the
time
next. Yeah. Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
to a phone call and telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry about your problem. Just go on and get a
Exactly.
solution.
Don't buy into that narrative that's
Yes.
limiting you. Because I was having this conversation with somebody I love very much yesterday. Look, you're bumping up against your edge. Are you going to choose to be defined by your limitations? Or are you going to choose possibility, opportunity, optimism? Because both are choices. One is a
100%.
conscious choice where you need to override a lot of the way that you have learned to be a human. And one is the one that is less conscious, it's much more subconscious. If that's what's running your life, if you don't have that intentionality, then your life's not going to be everything it could be. So
And it
it's
really
such a
is that
joy.
choice.
Yeah, exactly. And what I remember, so I think we met because we met online, the modern way, isn't it, to meet online? And I remember, I think you came along to activate your fullest expression, a free event that I was doing. But anyway, I remember when I asked you that question about who are you in your fullest expression, how much that lit you up and activated you. And so for me, 6, 7 months later, to see you sitting here living as your fullest expression, what an absolute joy. And it's been such a wonderful experience to just hear more of your story, to see you in your light, feeling so confident, not knowing it all, not having it all completely and
Mhm.
utterly mapped out, but just knowing, just being so connected. to that knowing and that inner wisdom. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, where can people find you? How can people find out more about working with you as a holistic hypnotherapist? Is there anything you want to say on that? And I'll share the links in the show notes as well. So where can
Thanks.
people find you, Debs?
Very simple, www.deborahcraig.com. Nice and
Perfect.
easy. That's where
Great.
you'll find me on my website. And I am at the Holistic Hypnotherapist on YouTube. And you'll catch me, just my name on LinkedIn if you're on socials. You'll see all my retreats, my offers there, things that I do to
Amazing.
support people. And there's a wait list for spring next year. So if
Amazing.
you're interested, don't hesitate, jump on.
Amazing. Wonderful.
Great conversation.
Thank you. And so what my last thing for those of you who are watching and listening is I'd love you to grab a pen and a piece of paper or a journal and answer the question, connect with the question, what is stirring in me right now? I'd love to know, it's likely that the energy that we've brought in this conversation is stirring and activating something in you. So what is stirring in you right now? Take some time to think about that because it's not random, those feelings, those niggles, those nudges, that discomfort, those desires. It's saying it's time for a new chapter. And like Deb said, like we've explored, sometimes just that baby step by you just letting yourself go there and answer that question is going to open up the next step. So thank you so much for being here. If you found this a valuable conversation, I would love you to just share it with anybody that you think would love to hear what we had to say. If you haven't already, check out the quiz and discover your feminine edge leadership archetype and get loads of great free resources that I've designed for you, which are really specifically designed for the stage of evolution that you're at. So I'd love you to check that out. And until next time, I'm Mel McIntyre. This is the Wildly Awakened Women series. Thanks again to Debs, and I'll see you soon.